Set 5 of Disney Lorcana Shimmering Skies is finally upon us, and today I am celebrating with all of you by sharing my favorite cards in Shimmering Skies. Let's go. Alright, so just to set the precedent real quick about how this is going to work, we're going to bounce around from all six inks, and I'm just going to share a couple cards that I personally enjoy from the set. This may not be cards that are like super meta defining or like absolutely broken on a stick, but they're just cards that I enjoy. And so let's kick it off with my home color of steel. So the first card up is Krunk, Head of Security. So he's a non-equal 7 cost, 6/6 with a pip. That he's just for 5. He's a super rare. And then during his turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play a character with cost of 5 or less for free. First off, love that Kronk is the head of security. It's very thematic, 6/6, so he's a beefy boy that works. I love that Steel has a way to free play stuff. Free play in any form in most TCGs is always a good thing. And yeah, I think that he is a very decent card. Next up, we are going with the King of Pride Rock, Simba, son of Mufasa. So Simba is he's a 6 cost, inkable 3/5, shifts for 4 with 1 lore pip, and when you play this character, you may banish a chosen item or location. So Steel getting more item hate outside of Benja and Aladdin, perfect. And then location hate. Obviously, we got to get rid of those pesky Queen's Castles in a card you're going to see on this list. Also, Pete, game referee, 3 cost, inkable 3/3 with the pip. And this effect is absurd. I've been testing for DLC Vegas, and this guy's been putting in a lot of work. So when you play the character, opponents can play actions until the start of your next turn. Obviously, we all know what actions are, but that also includes songs because they're classified as actions. So being able to stall the opponent out, and maybe especially against like Steel Song, like just lock them out. If you know you're about to go into a turn where you might get Be Prepared, lock them out so that way you protect your board from getting Be Prepared. This card is just absolutely phenomenal. And my last card for Steel is the Seven Dwarfs Mine. No, we're not riding on the mine train at the Magic Kingdom, but this is the next best, closest thing. So the Seven Dwarf Mine Train, it's a inkable 2 cost location, 2 movement costs, 6 willpower with the lore pip. That during your turn, the first time you move a character here, you may deal 1 damage to your chosen character, and if the character was a knight, which was the design theme for the Seven Dwarfs and Snow White herself, in this set, you deal 2 damage instead. We're going to talk about this more with Emerald when we get there, but I really like the design philosophy for like dealing with damage of your opponent's opposing characters. And so I think Emerald and Steel are having a nice like merger of like a design philosophy. And I know I said that was the last card, but of course, how can I forget King Arthur? The art on this card is phenomenal, especially the Enchanted. This card is insane. It's mostly on here just for the Enchanted. However, I did fully more talk about this card on my ranking every legendary video in Shimmering Skies. You can click the card up there to check that out. But a quick synopsis: he's a non-inkable 7 cost that's just for 5. He's a 3/6 with the lure pips, and then when you play him, get chosen character, challenger +2, and persist +2, and they can challenge ready characters this turn. Playability wise, he's fine. He's okay. But I just think the enchanted art, phenomenal. So let's bounce over to Ruby. Only picked a few for this ink, but first up is Maximus Team Champion. He is a inkable 6 cost 3/5 with 2 war pips, whose ability says at the end of your turn, if any of your characters in play have 5 strength or more, you gain 2 lore, and if any of them have 10 strength or more, you gain 5. Ideally, you could use this with something like support to boost them up, and then obviously that lasts for the turn. There's obviously like beefy type people. If you play this, say in like a Amber Ruby like Mufasa based strategy, use something like a Churner box, something along those lines. Gaston, you could obviously gain the 5 lore that way. But I like it to pair it with something like Shisu and Flynn Rider Frenemy. And then that way the Shisu gets the boost because you're not going to be discarding your opponent's hand. And then you're going to gain off frenemy at the start of your turn and then gain off max here at the end of your turn. And I thought that was a nice synergy between the two. Next up, we have a card from Wreck-It Ralph. We have Vanellope Von Schweetz, random roster racer, non-inkable 4 cost. That is a 3/3 with 2 lore pips. Shifts. No, this is not the shift one. She has Rush. And then when you play this character, she gains evasive until the start of your next turn. So kind of like a Peter Pan, basically. I just really like her. Even though she's not inkable, I just really like her. That a 3/3 that has rush and evasive, I think is very good in Ruby. And our final card is going to be an item actually, and it is the Ruby Chronicon. Hopefully I said that right. It's a 1 cost inkable that says you exert it and chosen character gets +1 strength this turn. I think that is very good. Just a little boost, especially for challenge based concepts. I just really like it. Again, not really like Ruby Sapphire needed any sort of a boost. I think ideally, I think like Ruby Steel, like a damage boost, like challenging based strategy, this fits better in. But it is a 1 cost item that you could replace Shield of Virtue with in the Ruby Amethyst list. Now let's bounce on over to Amber. And first up, we have Prince Naveen Ukulele Player, non-inkable 4 cost, 3/3 2 lore pip, Singer 6. And it's beautiful. Note when you play this character, you may sing a song with cost 6 or less for free. Fantastic, right? Um, Everyone is getting excited for Steel Song in order to you drop him, spin that wheel, and that's for free. I think Naveen is solid. I've done a little bit more testing with him. I also talked about him in that aforementioned ranking of your legendary video, obviously, because he's a legendary. And in that video, I said he was kind of mediocre. After testing with him a little bit more for DLC Vegas, I'm gonna bump him up a little bit up to that next year. I definitely think he's solid and he has potential. Next up, we are going to talk about sticking with a music theme, Minnie Mouse Drum Major, inkable 5 costs, 4/4 2 lore pip, and shift 4/4. And her ability is that when you play this character, if you use shift a player, you may search your deck for a character and reveal that card to all players, and then shuffle your deck and put that card on top. So again, it's love for many. I think the art's really cool. And then if you have a way, say with Steel Song or maybe just any sort of way to draw, essentially. I think being able to shifter, find something you're looking for, put it on top, and then use a draw ability, and then get that character. I think it's unique. It's a niche application that I think is interesting. Next up is a card that needs no introduction whatsoever to this community. If you've been testing for the Set 5 metagame, you know how good this card is. Daisy Duck, Donald's Date. This card is the chase. I think one of the chase cards. It's going to define this metagame. She's a non-inkable 1 cost 1/4. Very good one cost stats and 2 lore pips. Even better. Aggro decks are really going to like this because when this character quests, each opponent reveals the top card of their deck, and if it's a character card, they may put that into their hand. Otherwise, they put it on the bottom of their deck. So, yeah, your opponent gets to reveal and get something. So while you're getting to lure, your opponent's getting stuff into their hand potentially. It is what it is, but the a lot of people really like it for the aggro deck, and obviously that 4 willpower. It's going to stick around for a couple turns, and it is a very solid option. And next up, we have a action card called Revive. Revive is non-inkable, costs 5, and you play a character with a 5 costs or less from your discard pile for free. Now, when I first read it, I immediately thought of Mufasa, but there's going to be some other applications for it in the future, of course, especially, again, use Steel Song as an example. If you're spinning the wheel, the discard in your hand, you can play Revive and pick something right back up, obviously. But ideally, I think it is really good for Mufasa decks or maybe anti, like if the Emerald discard deck is still seeing play going forward with the Bucky errata finally in effect. I do think that this card has some potential here. And rounding out Amber is Blast from Your Past. So he is a 6 cost non-inkable song that you name a card and you return all characters with that name from your discard to your hand. So again, speaking of discard with a whole new world, uh, go to whole new world, sing this, and pick stuff back up. I think this card has future potential. I don't know how much potential it has now, but I do think it has future implications. Next, I mentioned this ink earlier. Let's head on over to Emerald. And first up for Emerald, I have Iago, Fake Flamingo. Simply put, he is a 2/4 with the Lore Pit. He costs 4, he's inkable, has evasive, and when he quests, you pay 2 less for the next action you play this turn. Evasive, 4 willpower, and you pay 2 less for an action, which coincidentally means a song. So yeah, I think Iago is pretty solid. Next up, one of my favorite cards in the set, Robin Hood, Sneaky Sleuth. He is a 5-cost inkable 3/5 with a lore pit that shifts for 3, and he gets +1 lore pit for each opposing damage character in play. And I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about steel. I think the design for Emerald this set is with they're moving away from the discard and going for a more damage focused strategy, which I think is pretty interesting when you combine it with steel. And so I think this guy has a lot of potential. Speaking of Robin Hood, I have a champion of Sherwood deck profile, which you can click on the card up here. I will be doing an update to that maybe in the next week or so once I do a little bit further testing on it with the new Robin Hood cards. So be sure to check out that. Now, moving along, we have Hypnotic Deduction. It is a 2-cost inkable action that says you draw 3, then you put 2 from your hand on the top of your deck. Yeah, this card is really good. It's not quite like Graceful Charity if you're a Yugi Boomer, but I definitely like it. You're able to, as it says, draw 3 and then put 2 back on top, kind of stack your deck a little bit, get rid of things you don't need. I think this card has a ton of potential going forward. Next up, we mentioned it earlier. Speaking of discard, Prince John's Mirror, a inkable 3-cost item, has 2 effects. If you have a character named Prince John in play, you pay 1 less to play this item. So if you have obviously Prince John out, it's going to cost 2. And then the secondary ability is at the end of each opponent's turn. If they have more than 3 cards in hand, they discard until they have 3 cards in hand. This is perfect synergy because guess what? When you discard and you have Prince John out, you draw cards. It's that simple. I love the design on this card. It's so good. Next up, we have What Can I Say Except You're Welcome. So, You're Welcome, a inkable 4-cost psalm that says shuffle chosen character, item, or action into the player's deck, and then that player draws 2 cards. So, Emerald has removal. Yes, the opposing player draws 2, but guess what? Emerald is primarily what? A discard ink, so you don't care that they're drawing. And the enchanted art on this card is phenomenal. Next, we have Scar, Vengeful Lion, a 4-cost inkable 4/2 with a lore pip. He has ward, and then whenever one of your characters challenges a damaged character, you draw a card. I think that's pretty good. And also, how do you argue with this enchanted art? Again, going on with the whole like Scar, Hyena, Steel damage thing, like we just talked about. I think this card is very, very solid. We'll be right back to our regularly scheduled program here in just a second, but I have a favor to ask. If you guys like the video and you want to see more lorcana content here on the channel, be sure to obviously like the video. Helps the algorithm do what it does. And smash the subscribe button and click that bell so you get notified when I upload new videos every Tuesday and Friday night at 7:15 p.m. EST. Back to the video. All right, so we got 2 inks left in. Let's head to the purple color. Let's head to Amethyst. First up, Madam Mim Elephant. So, Madam Mim's an inkable 4-cost 3/7 with a lore pit. She has 2 abilities that when you play this character, you banish her or return another chosen character of yours back to the hand. Everybody knows what that's going to be at this point. So your goats, crabs, rabbits, maybe even bounce snakes if you want to. And then she has a secondary ability called Sneaky Move. At the start of your turn, you may move up to 2 damage counters from this character to chosen opposing character. So I think this character has some potential. I don't know if you're going to max out on her at like a 4 of, but a 2 or 3 of I think is fine in the Amethyst strategies that want to run the Merlin Mem package. Next up, we have Anna, Mystical Majesty, non-equal 7. That's a 4/5, 2 lore pips just for 4. And when you play her, you exert all opposing characters. I think this card has a lot of potential. I know people are excited for the legendary genie to pair her with. Um, I think you could also pair her with her sister and Elsa, Spirit of Winter from the first chapter, and really lock your opponent out that way. Speaking of her sister Elsa, we have Elsa the Fifth Spirit, Inkable 5 cost, 2/5 with a lore pit, rush, and evasive. Fantastic. And then her ability is when you play this character, exert chosen opposing character. So, like we just talked about, locking down your opponent. The fact that she has rush and evasive is so good. Next up, we have Magica Dispel, a 4 cost inkable 2/5 with a lore pip that says during your opponent's turn, if an effect would cause you to discard one or more cards from your hand, you don't discard. It's anti Emerald discard hate. Um, Love it. Also, anti A Whole New World. I love cards that counter other strategies like this. I think they're phenomenal. Not that the Amethyst decks, especially Ruby Amethyst, needed this kind of a power boost. It's going to be seen in that deck, but it's here. They wouldn't have printed it unless it was necessary for a reason. You could argue, is it a little too late with the Bucky nerf? We'll never know. But going forward, this card is a thing. So next up, we have a action, not an item, Hypnotic Strength. Inkable 2 costs. It says draw a card, choose a character, gains challenger +2 this turn. Yeah, again, going into the whole challenger-based strategy ideas. You draw a card, so there's a replacement effect, and then you boost somebody up for challenging. I think that is pretty solid. Next up, we have one of my favorite cards in the entire set is a action card called Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom. It's a non-equal 2 cost that you just gain 2 lore. Yeah, this card is very, very sneaky. DLCs, be prepared to see this card. Especially in the whole Merlin mem package. A lot of times they get to like that 17, 18 spot and they don't have a way to close the game. This is how they're going to do it. Just telling you right now. I think this card is very solid. And our final card for Amethyst is the Library, a gift for Belle. It is a inkable 3 cost location that has a 1 cost movement cost, 8 willpower with the lore pip that says whenever a character is banished while here, you may draw a card. So there's a lot of speculation about, are you going to run this over something like Queen's Castle in the Amethyst based strategies, right? I think there's merit to that conversation. I think right now, without further data, I do think Queen's Castle is a tiny, tiny bit better. But I do see the argument for wanting to run this card. All right, and we have made it. We are at the final ink of the video. And I'm ending it with the ink that got the biggest glow up this set, Sapphire. Let's get started. So, kicking off Sapphire is more Robin Hood love with Prince John Gold Lover, a inkable 4 cost that's a 3/4 with a lore pip that says you exert him, and you play an item from your hand or discard with 5 costs or less for free exerted. So yes, while he has to dry, you're going to play him on turn 5, or your turn 5, you ramp in Sapphire, so it'd be like turn 3, turn 4, for you ideally, depending on how the curve plays out. Being able to get an item back, yes, is exerted. I think that's a balancing thing. I think if you got your item ready, that'd be a little too good. But yeah, I really like this guy. Whether you are going Ruby, Sapphire, or Steel Sapphire, I think this card has potential. I think he has potential. Is he a 4 of? Maybe not. 2 to 3. Again, it feels like that sweet spot. I'm still kind of testing him out and seeing where I think he fits. And who doesn't love the promo version that you can get in the updated Disney 100 Villainous? So yeah, I really like the art on that one as well. Next up, we have Tipo, Growing Sun. So he's a inkable 2 cost, 1/2 with a pip. That when you play him, you may put a card from your hand to your inkwell face down and exerted. Again, this is like a replacement rank card for One Jump Ahead. He's inkable. He's a character. Seems pretty good. Um, Next, we have Hideaway, a 2-cost inkable action that you put chosen item or location into its player's inkwell face down and exerted. Again, more removal. I think every ink is starting to get cards like these, and I just think that is really beneficial for this game. We have 2 cards left, and that is first, Merlin, Intellectual Visionary. Non-inkable 6, that's a 3/7, 2 lore pips just for 5, and when you play him by a shift, you search your deck for any card in your deck, add it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. Again, to talk about the ranking every legendary video, which you can find in the card up here. I think this card has a ton of potential. I understand that most people think it's a trap. But that being said, and he might be because the Merlins that you can shift on aren't the best, I think he has potential. I definitely think he has potential. Um, yes, it does count the other Merlin forms, so you could go like Blurple, but then you're not getting something like a whole new world. You're not getting something like maybe Be Prepared. But if you go that route, you can grab your dime. You can grab something that you need, another goat. You can grab something along those lines, obviously. I just think Merlin has potential. He might be a trap, and I could be wrong about him in that video. But check that video out. I still think he's a really cool card. And finally, who better to end this video with than the king, Mufasa, ruler of Pride Rock. This card is phenomenal. Been running him in testing. He is so good. He pretty much closes out games for you. So he has 2 effects. So the first is when you play him, you exert all of the cards in your inkwell, and then you return 2 at random from your inkwell to your hand. Obviously they don't specify what at random means. What I do when I cast them is I do the effect, and then I just grab my inkwell, I just shuffle it, and then I just pick out 2 randomly and put the rest down and call it a day, and it is what it is. I think that's the easiest way to go about it. I know some people say like they're probably like in a DLC environment, they're probably worried about mark cards, doing it that way. I know some people may just like randomly like choose like that. They may like roll dice, like however you think is random. But for testing, I just pick up, shuffle, grab 2, move on. And then the last ability is everything the light touches. Whenever this character quests, ready your ink. So do all your plays, quest with him, gain 4 lore, ready, do more plays. It's absolutely phenomenal. This card is probably my favorite card in the entire set, and my God, look at that enchanted art. Outside of Robin Hood, this is my chase card, along with the Robin Hood Enchanted. But there you go. And there you have it, fellow Illumineers. Those are my favorite cards in Shimmering Skies. Be sure to let me know down below what your favorite cards are in this set. As always, I mentioned it earlier, be sure to give me one of these. Helps the algorithm do what it does best. And please subscribe and click that bell. As always, you can follow me on the artist formerly known as Twitter on X at lorcana Thanos. Thanks for watching, and remember, the hardest choices require the strongest wills. Bye.